Kobe person, how easy is it for a pedophile to pick up an underage child using social media? Well, today we're going to find that out.
The FBI is warning of online dating scams. The Bureau received more than 15,000 reports linked to romance scams last year. More than half of the complaints involved losses of money. Over the past 3 years, those scams cost Americans up to $210
romance scamming
million.
is a problem impacting all demographics, and that the scams are increasing because they're lucrative and easy to pull off. Scammers often prey on victims for money, of course, hitting them where it hurts the most, the wallet, sure, but also the heart.
I think people could do both, but let's get real about this. Connection is what humans crave. It's what we are all about. It's something that separates us from animals. It even comes before the fact that we have language, because the language is an example of a, if you like, a neural technology we have created to answer this need for connection. We are the social animal par excellence, or by devilry, if you like, if not necessarily excellence. We are constantly in need of connecting with people for friendship, love, sex, knowledge, growth, enmity, territoriality, all the imperatives that drive us as human beings. And we've created villages and towns to help us do that, and roads, and now we've created something else that allows us to do it even more. When cars first arose, people were horrified at the deaths on the road. Horrified. They couldn't believe it. I mean, there were hundreds of people being squelched every day. It was grotesque. And you know, if you just braked in a car at 30 miles an hour, you'd kill yourself on the steering wheel, you'd break your neck. People were dying all the time. Did they say, oh, that's it then? We can't have cars. Sorry. In the same way as if someone says, actually, these mobile phones do give out microwaves, and they will give you brain cancer. Are we going to say, oh, well, that's the end of that technology then? Not on your Nelly. There's a risk-reward ratio here. And for us, the reward is so great that whatever the risk is, we try and contain it and understand it at best. But what we don't do is say the risk is too great.
Privacy matters because we all need a margin of discretion around our lives so that we can exercise some control over them. The fact of the matter is that we've already long ago given up much of our privacy as soon as we started to email and use mobile telephones. But if you thought about what it would be like if your neighbours knew details of your bank account or your medical record, or could listen into your quarrels with your spouse, you would be very disconcerted, because you would feel that you were losing control over areas of your life that just belong to you. That's why privacy really matters. And the great worry that we have in the digital age is that we've already given so much of it up, both to private agencies and to public ones.
Thank you. How might we give up personal information online?
Every single time we go online, every time we look at a website, every time we send an email message, every time we make a phone call with our mobile telephones, we're exposing ourselves, we're stripping ourselves naked to the view of anybody who is interested to find out what we're doing. We know already that private agencies are keen to look at the pattern of use of the internet that we indulge in so that they can target advertising at us. And governments in the Western world, indeed in the world at large, are anxious to keep a record of who people are talking to, what kind of information they're finding out, so that they can detect patterns of, that suggest crime or terrorism in the offing. And in all these ways, therefore, we expose ourselves to view through the use of these devices. Not that we would want to give up using these devices, they're just so useful to us, but they do expose us to scrutiny.
Should we be worried about this accumulation of personal information? And if so, why? What does it matter?
We should be very worried, I think, about the amount of data concerning ourselves, including very personal, private, intimate data about ourselves, which is now out there in the public domain, both in private and in public hands. We should be worried about it for a large number of reasons, but one central reason is that this information is stored digitally in one or another location out there in a way that we may not have access to ourselves. And it's very, very easily manipulated. It's very easily changed by somebody who is either lazy, incompetent, or malevolent in some way. It's very easy for that information to be shared, and for patterns of information to seem to appear to certain agencies that could put one under suspicion, even if one weren't a suspicious individual. In other words, the prospect for misinformation, for corruption of our personal information, and for mistakes to be made about our personal information is massively increased by the fact that there is so much of it out there and so much of it is collated by different agencies. Inefficiency and patchiness of information is a great protection of personal privacy. And the more efficient the systems are that collect and collate data about us, the more the potential is for mistake and misuse.
Do you have any examples?
Quite unaware, every single day that we do something digital, we are potentially leaving a trace out there, and that if somebody wanted to find out where we were shopping, what we were doing, who we were communicating with, why we were doing it, what websites we were logging on to, they could do it. It's a very, very exposed set of media, these electronic communication devices that we now use. And the point is that they're fantastically convenient. None of us would willingly give them up. But what we would want, if we really thought carefully about what it meant whenever we use these devices, we would want much, much greater individual security for our communications.
I think the price we pay for having easy access to so much information, easy, quick access to so much information is we sacrifice some of the depth of our engagement with that information. So the kind of jumping, hopping from bit to bit to bit, clicking on links, takes the place of what used to be a more contemplative, I think, approach to thinking about one thing, whether it's one piece of information or the argument or the narrative of a book. It becomes much harder, I think, when you're bombarded by information and other stimuli, as you are all the time on the web, to sit down and really focus on one particular thing. And so we gain kind of a breadth of engagement with information, but the cost is, I think, a certain superficiality in our relationship to that information.
Your clickstream data just comes to the website, comes to advertisers without your actually having to do anything other than just going and clicking on things. So it's a very, very cheap and unobtrusive form of currency. I mean, probably the best thing about it is that it is so unobtrusive. You don't know you're giving it up, and so it seems entirely free to you.
Every year in the UK, we leave up to £5,000 worth of data online, which is then sold to marketing companies and harvested, filtered, and cross-referenced to provide detailed insights into our lives. Facebook will know you're gay long before your mother does. 70% of us admit to fearing how much we've already shared. 1 in 7 teenagers in the US has sent a compromising image over the internet and had a sexual chat with a real-life stranger. A majority of European internet users are under the impression that a security service has snooped into their conversations and activities. 4. Online crime is out of control. Over the last 20 years, crime has abated in many countries. Since it peaked in the UK in 1995, it's fallen by 60%. But internet crime is exploding. In 1990, the NSPCC estimated there were 7,000 known images of child pornography at large. In 2014, American law enforcement found 42 million images on just one server. The UK government estimates that 50,000 people in the UK are actively involved in downloading and sharing images of child abuse. Online abuse and hate speech are endemic. On Twitter, 10,000 uses of racist slur terms occur a day, and 2,000 tweets are sent containing the word rape. 69% of young people in the UK have experienced cyberbullying.
Just waiting right now to get the text that our parents have left the house. So I just got a text. My parents just left. I can be at the park in 10 minutes. We're gonna go see if she comes in 10 minutes. We're gonna go right now, set up all the cameras, and just be waiting there for her. So she said she's gonna meet me at the park playground. So this is the closest to her house, she said. So right now I'm texting her that I just got here. All right, we'll just wait, see what she says. She said, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Oh, she's coming, yeah. Michaela? From Facebook. You remember?
Well, like this. It said, hello, James Veitch. I have an interesting business proposal I want to share with you, Solomon. Now, my hand was kind of hovering on the delete button, right? As you are, I was looking at my phone. I thought, I could just delete this. Or I could do what I think we've all always wanted to do. And I said, Solomon, your email intrigues me. And the game was afoot. He said, Dear James Veitch, we shall be shipping gold to you. You will earn 10% of any gold you distribute. So I knew I was dealing with a professional.
I think that people have patchy understanding of data on the web. It's such an enormously complex subject. You know, retailers might use data in a completely different way to search engines. You know, I don't think anybody has ever had access to Google's search algorithms and what that means if you are suddenly at the top of the search when you look for something, or if you suddenly fall to the bottom. You know, that's something that's very murky and behind the scenes. But similarly, I think that retailers, by and large, have a pretty good, open, transparent policies. They tell you what they're doing with your data. You read terms and conditions. You know, we were always tried to be very transparent with rmbusinesslastminute.com, like every, you know, proper retailer now. So I think it's enormous varying degrees. I think the big piece that's obviously come from nowhere in the last few years, the hot topic of social media. I think that people are only beginning to understand what it might mean to post things about yourself in a public forum that then might be looked at by people that you work with, or might be looked at by people that might employ you in the future. Or, you know, that whole area, I think, is where people are now only beginning to have a think about what that might mean for them. And I think that the web has reinforced what I believe about human nature, was that it's good, and it's, when put together, it can create great things. You know, I find the web a friendly place. I don't like this extremist view that the web is suddenly a danger zone where unpleasant people can more easily find their vulnerable targets. You know, that's the extremities, as it always has been in every society. And as long as you educate to make people safe, I think the bulk of what happens in the web is interesting, exciting, supportive, fun, entertaining, and magic.